So we've really starting to see the activity pick up through over the past few hours as it pushed through central Ohio. Some very heavy rain down towards Columbus as well. Not currently under any active alerts, but again, this tornado warning that is in effect for Delaware, Union County, that's going to be in effect until 2:15. And again, this is a threat that we've been talking about pretty much all day long going into Friday, even the past couple days. It is imperative that you have multiple ways to receive alerts. I'm sure many of you might be turning on the television right now. You can see that we did have that tornado warning just expire, including parts of Urbana there in Champaign County. But what we're looking at now is this particular tornado warning that is including a pretty good chunk of Union County and that of Delaware County. So we'll take a closer look at this. Madison will be zooming in here so we can take a look and see the areas that are included. Again, this is from Richwood towards Radnor, Delaware, Ostrander, just outside of Marysville there. You're to the north, and Leesburg area. You are within the path of this particular tornado warning. And putting this in motion, you can kind of see the general direction that these storms are moving. And again, this is moving pretty fast. So if we can put these winds in motion, again, a lot of times when we're talking about these tornado warnings, especially for this type of event, you can't get that ground truth because it's just dark out for the time of the day. So again, you have to treat this as if this is, an actual tornado on the ground, because you don't have the opportunity to react unless, again, it's something it's in the middle of the day. You can see something like that confirmed miles away. We are looking at some very strong winds that are moving through associated with this. And again, nothing clear here. What we would want to see is perhaps a little bit more popping colors of green and red. That's whenever we kind of get together with what is called a couplet. And that usually is a tall tale sign of some rotation. And right now it appears like we could be looking at some broad levels of rotation. And again, this tornado warning is including parts of central northern Union County and parts of central Delaware County as well. And again, if we can go back to radar there to give you a look at that, and then throw up the cue there so we can see the time that this is going to be in effect for. But we're still looking at this particular tornado warning, again, in effect until 2:15. If we can then push this up to the north and then run this on a quick loop, we'll show you just the trajectory at which this is moving through. And again, a lot of these storms are blowing through fairly quick. You can see just they're kind of outpacing some of the warnings that have already been issued from the National Weather Service. Seeing clusters of lightning as well. Not seeing a ton of lightning associated with this. And again, a lot of these storms are not only packing some strong damaging wind gusts, but again, we're looking at some very heavy rain and also the small risk where we could have a few tornadoes. So again, this is the time you need to be in your safe space. Hopefully you already have multiple devices at hand. They're fully charged in case we're in the instance of having a power outage. It is imperative that you go to your safe place now. Now's not the time to go see how hard it's raining outside or if you have any damage. Deal with that later. You need to make your safety a priority here and make sure that you're in your safe place. You want to be in the lowest lying portion of your home, whether that's in your bathroom, putting as many walls in between you and the storm. You don't want to be in the living room or in the garage in an area where the winds can certainly cause for some disasters, as those lofted debris is oftentimes the worst part of these storms and not so much the actual winds associated with the tornado. And you can see again this particular tornado warning, this is including Union County and Delaware County. So we'll just take a closer look and just zoom in here. We'll leave it in motion too. We'll start over towards Union County so we can take a look at some of these areas that are included in this. And you can see over towards Richwood, Leesburg, moving down a little bit further south. We can see where we're at with Marysville. Again, you can see you're kind of just on the line here. Still some strong winds and some showers that have been passing through with some very heavy rain. Haven't seen any damage reports yet, but we did see some reports of some wind gusts in excess of 50 to 60 miles an hour. So these are packing a punch. They're moving fast. Most of these storms, this was moving roughly at about 55 miles an hour, I believe, towards the east. And again, for those of you, we'll take a little bit of a closer look here so we can kind of peel back where we're seeing some of this heavier precipitation, even a little bit further, where you can see in between Leesburg up into Richwood, just getting a little bit closer over towards Summersville. Broadway area, not seeing what looks to be some extremely heavy precipitation, but a lot of these storms compared to what we had to our west, not the same type of tornadic activity. You know, they're not the long-lived, extremely large tornadoes that you can spot from miles away. Again, for these types of events, which is associated with a line of storms, which more or less typically what we get this time of the year, and really here in parts of Ohio, they get embedded within these lines, and it's these little notches that we see in the lines where we could eventually see something like this with this particular tornado warning. And again, bring things back out a little bit. Currently it's 1:52. This warning is in effect until 2:15. You can see again, including parts of northern Union County from Richwood off towards the east and towards Radnor, Ashley, and Delaware and towards Delaware County. And just a little bit of a big picture here. Again, this is radar indicated. We don't have confirmation of a tornado on the ground, the actual velocity signatures or the winds. And actually it looks like we're getting an update with this as well. So if we can get zoomed in there, so if we can get some extra information. And Madison, I don't know if you see anything there with the National Weather Service in their chat on what they're saying with this particular warning.
Yes, so we've just got an update here. So they're just extending this. I think they're only changing the shape a little bit here. So this is still continuing until 2:15. Another thing I do want to note with this that we're seeing is the main concern is definitely those wind gusts. We've got gusts reported 54 to 60 miles per hour within this storm. They're even stronger. And like Ross was just saying, there's not a lot of rotation. All the winds are going relatively in the same direction. Instead, we're getting some differences in wind speed, and I think that's what's causing some of the concern when it comes to the National Weather Service, but no real clear couplet, nothing really standing out at this point. But again, just take it easy, be in your safe place. This continues till 2:15, and that is all I'm seeing at the moment, Ross.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important to realize too, especially with these types of storms, again, this time of the day, it is pitch black out there. You need to make sure that you have your safe place picked out. Now's not the time to be scrambling. You need to take that safety plan, initiate it. Hopefully you're in your safe place right now listening to us. Perhaps you heard that through the 10 TV app, your NOAA weather radio, or just your cell phone. This is why it was so important for us to make sure that you had your devices charged. You left that ringer on because you need ways to wake up in the middle of the night for instances just like this. Now, we don't have any confirmation of a tornado on the ground with this particular situation, but just like what Madison mentioned, we're looking at some pretty strong winds that are moving with these storms. And just right up towards Marion, we have a severe thunderstorm warning up there. A lot of these storms have been moving anywhere from about 60 to 70 miles an hour as far as some of these wind gusts. So definitely some wicked winds associated with this. And just to give you a little bit of a bigger picture here before we bring it back down into this tornado warning, just showing you just how this is spanning a big chunk of central Ohio, even a little bit further to the south. We notice we're starting to see some storm activity down towards Chillicothe out there as well. Looks like we have a severe thunderstorm warning just over Wilmington, not yet including parts of Chillicothe there. But again, you can see all these storms coming through, which the timeline we said we're talking about it all day between 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. Here we are pretty much meeting right in the middle with these storms moving through central Ohio as we've been projecting. And again, you can see things pretty quiet off to the west now, but pretty much from Kenton far down south, just outside of Wilmington, all of this is now over parts of central Ohio, still looking clear out towards Zanesville, Muskegon County, Coshocton area. Ahead of these severe thunderstorms and tornado warning that we do have some of these showers and storms. Not seeing a whole lot of lightning, but some very strong winds that's moving through. And again, that's including Franklin County, but we currently do not have a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning here in Franklin County. But it looks like, and what you oftentimes see with these types of events where we have a line of strong storms bringing damaging winds, you'll see these embedded tornado warnings, which again will be smaller compared to the size of just that of the severe thunderstorm, because we are a lot of times just looking for those small notches in the storms where we could see some rotation, which again we'll throw on the winds there just to get a quick look at that and put it in motion. But again, as Madison said, you can see there's pretty much a clear uniform motion, and what you're looking at is essentially the green colors are going towards the radar site, which is located in Wilmington, and the red is going away from there. And the brighter colors, that's just showing some very strong winds likely 60 to 70 miles an hour, but this is high up into the atmosphere. But given the fact that we have some very strong low-level winds, to no surprise it should come that some of these stronger winds are mixing near the surface, which is why we're dealing with quite the amount of severe thunderstorm activity and strong winds currently across the area. And again, this tornado warning is in effect until 2:15. So again, we still have, just over 15 minutes. A lot of times, wouldn't be surprised if we were to continue to see some updates, as you just saw there live a few minutes ago, where we did see them kind of clear up this tornado warning with the National Weather Service. And again, this is including Delaware and Union County. Give you a little bit closer, or should say back up a little bit and show the radar on there so we can go over the areas that are covered in this. And a lot of times, especially with these strong lines, storms, they kind of outpace the warnings, and that's because we see a lot of changes in a small amount of time because these storms are moving through so quickly. So we'll get a closer look. You can see up towards Mansfield, we now have a severe thunderstorm warning as well. So again, still not seeing a lot of this stuff wind down. But again, if we can get a closer look over towards Delaware County, and again, seeing where we're looking at what is really not extremely impressive as far as intensity for these storms, which you would think that you might be dealing with some rotation, but you can see there just on a quick scan update how quickly these are moving. And again, putting this in motion, you can see again this particular tornado warning. I'll step aside so you can see out there pretty much Delaware County up towards Radnor. Ashley, you're kind of on the northeastern fringe there. Richwood, Leesburg, and through Union County, Ostrander. And again, let's go a little bit further south so we can see just where this is wrapping up. And you can see Marysville, you're just on the cusp, but you're still in that severe thunderstorm warning. And we'll leave it here. Watch how this line comes in, and then you can kind of see, just if we can move this off to the east, see a little bit of a notch there where it looks like that was the first reason why the National Weather Service issued this tornado warning as this moved through. And you can see how it kind of breaks up, and a lot of times, especially with these storms kind of running out of juice, especially moving over towards central Ohio where we don't have the most favorable conditions but still strong enough, this is actually starting to fall apart based on what we're looking at on our live radar, but still very strong to the north. You can see the winds up there and associated with this thin line of some heavy precipitation that's moving through. But a lot of this looks like it may be falling apart. Madison, I don't know if you've seen any updates from the National Weather Service yet, but again, this is radar indicated, so it's not confirmed that we have a tornado on the ground, but it is just extremely important that you make sure that you seek shelter into your safe place whenever we're talking storms arriving at, 2 a.m. on a Saturday.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ross. Right now, there's no major updates from the National Weather Service, but I did want to add, even if you're not within this tornado warning, make sure you're taking shelter. This whole line is bringing strong winds. We've got widespread severe thunderstorm warnings as well as this tornado warning. And of course, like Ross has been saying, the tornado warning is radar indicated, so we don't have any verification that there is a tornado on the ground, but there's enough evidence that the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued this alert to get ahead of it. But I do want to show you just a little look at only the weather alerts happening right now. So we have the tornado warning in red, your severe thunderstorm warnings in orange. If you're within any of these colors, be inside, be in your safe place, away from windows. You want to be in the lowest level of the building possible. If you live in an apartment, just try to have as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Again, stay away from windows in case there's any flying debris, because within all of these storms, we do have those really strong wind gusts. So again, going back to this system, right now the line is starting to break down. It really looks like it's starting to lose strength. There's not nearly as much evidence of rotation that we were seeing just a little while ago. Walking back just a little ways here by around 140 into 150, we saw that little inflow notch. Walking forward, there was just a brief area I want to circle just right in here where we were seeing some brief spots of rotation. That's not even a concern, starting to break down at this point. So as we move forward in time, still dealing with those really strong winds. We're going to be keeping a close eye on that, not just this morning, but also as we head into mid-morning and the afternoon. Did just get another update. We've got another severe thunderstorm warning for Ross and Scioto counties. We've got 3/4 inch hail indicated from this and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. And that is more than strong enough to cause issues with debris, tree limbs, power outages. It's going to be a concern concern this morning, and also a concern over the next few hours and into the afternoon, because these wind gusts are not going anywhere. So if you don't have your phone charged right now, plug it in. Plug it in, leave it plugged in as long as you possibly can. That way, if you do lose power, we'll still be here as long as this tornado warning is in effect, and you can always watch us over on the 10 TV app. But as of right now, Ross, it does look like we've got some confirmed wind reports in the thunderstorm of 61 miles per hour.
Okay.
It looks like a little bit further south in areas like Kentucky, but still very strong winds up here right now. Yeah,
and again, these storms that'll be moving through, they're going to be gone before you know it, but we do have some very strong winds that are coming by. And actually, I did just get an update here, just on my watch. Severe thunderstorm warning, 2 a.m. to 2:45 a.m. This is for Pike in Ross County. So we're still focusing on this tornado warning. This is the primary concern. And again, we have been watching this ever since this was first issued from the National Weather Service. And again, that's going to be in effect until 2:15. But let's go down a little bit further to the south and see what we're dealing with this severe thunderstorm warning, where again, that was something that we briefly mentioned a moment ago, just because not really seeing a whole lot of activity as far as severe potential here in Franklin County. So let's shift things down further south into our southern counties here and see what we have going on. Take a look at this line moving through. This is going to be cruising through Washington Courthouse. And in fact, Madison, if we could put a little squall line track on that and then push it out to the east to see just how fast this is going to be moving and what areas are going to be impacted by this. Again, this is going to be moving east at roughly 55 to 60 miles an hour. So here we are at 2:03. Within a few minutes, this is going to be moving over towards Washington Courthouse. Rock Mills at roughly about 2:10 there. You're a little bit further to the south. New Holland, you're a bit further east on the outside of where this severe thunderstorm warning is. And then further out to the east, you can see there, that's even out towards northern parts, Pickaway County. You can see that you're looking at Asheville at 2:21. So that is quite the leap in a short amount of time. And putting that in motion again, you can see is probably not seeing a whole lot of lightning associated with this. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a weak system. Still looking at a storm that's going to be packing a punch and just ripping through. So really, just to pause this again, virtually nothing just east of Washington Courthouse. This line's going to become roaring through. It looks pretty well defined, not seeing any of those notches at which we were talking about that we're dealing with a little bit further to the north, but still likely going to be pretty impactful with some strong damaging wind gusts nonetheless. Let's zoom things out a little bit and then take a trip further south so we can then take a look and see what we have going on for some of our more southern counties. And you can see. Yep.
The Union County tornado warning has been canceled,
Okay.
but they did continue the tornado warning for Delaware County.
Okay, and that's still continuing until 2:15?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, still
So
2:15.
let's take a closer look at that and put a tag on there so we can show a little update with this tornado warning. And again, for those of you that are just tuning in right now, we did have a tornado warning issued for parts of Union and Delaware County. Union County, you're in the clear now, so you're good to go. We're still looking at this tornado warning in effect through Delaware. And again, this is going to be in effect until 2:15. So National Weather Service, we're keeping a close eye on this storm, and we're continuing to see this kind of trimmed up as it moves out to the east. And again, a lot of these storms are moving at that 50 to 60 mile an hour speed, so they're going to be in and out before you know it. So that's why now's not the time to go see what's going on outside. It's pitch black out there, a lot of rain being wrapped around these storms. So again, you do not want to be outside whenever we're talking about something as a tornado warning. In fact, even that this is radar indicated, there's a reason for that, because they want to get a head start on these storms before they develop, before we actually see a potential tornado spawn. So again, you need to be in your safe place right now for those of you that are in Delaware County. And again, this is just Delaware County where we're looking at this particular tornado warning. We're not seeing anything that is a strong signature. We can throw back up the winds and see if there's anything that we can notice that's maybe showing some rotation. But again, this is looking more of a signature of some straight line winds, although very strong winds. And that's something that maybe might not be as well known, is that with winds in excess of 60 to 70, 80 miles an hour, that's the strength of a weak tornado. And sometimes that could be worse than that of just a weak tornado moving through. especially something as widespread as some of the winds that we're looking at for us at this hour of the day. We're going to continue to see some strong winds associated with this. And again, from Radnor to Sandy Hill, looks like winds have kind of backed off a little bit, but over Delaware, seeing some roaring winds. That latest scan that you just saw there on Doppler radar showing that things are starting to weaken a little bit as this gradually pushes out east. So from 42 to 36 heading further east, you're going to continue to see those winds pick up. And just to bring things out a little bit to get a big picture here, we'll throw back on the radar to get a look and see what we're looking at. Again, you can see we do have a few updates with some of those severe thunderstorm warnings. Again, nothing here in Franklin County, but we do have this line here. We'll take a close look at that while we're at it, and you can see that it's just outside of Washington Courthouse now. And again, as I mentioned, just a couple minutes, this line moving right over through Washington Courthouse, and this particular severe thunderstorm warning, Madison, is it that of 60 to 70 mile an hour winds?
It's a 60-mile-per-hour winds and 3/4 inch hail associated with this one, and they just trimmed this warning back, so it's the same warning for that line right now, Ross.
Okay, cool. So let's take a closer look again at just these storms and put it in motion real quick so everyone can take a look at that. And again, for those of you that are tuning in right now, we joined on air just to show you and let you aware of the storms that are moving through. And that's not just for some of the severe thunderstorm warnings, but also the tornado warning that we did have earlier. We're still looking at the tornado warning in Delaware County, but showing you a little bit more of what's going on across central Ohio. Very strong storms moving through. Not a whole lot of lightning associated with it, but again, packing a punch in its track as it's moving through. And let's shift things a little bit further south. I want to go down towards Chillicothe, in towards Ross County, into Waverly there, down towards Scioto. So let's pause things here for a second so we can see that was just right over towards Sunfish, where we're looking at some of those heavier showers that are passing through. And you can see how things have kind of enhanced just recently. And as the scan goes through, what you see pop, that's highlighting some of the higher returns or the heaviest precipitation that we're looking at, and seeing a few lightning strikes associated with that as well. Chillicothe having some downpours over the area as well. And again, further up to the north and east, not seeing any active alerts pretty much east of Columbus, but to our south, you can see that we have a lot of activity with some heavy showers moving over towards Chillicothe, kind of sporadic lightning associated with that as well. So we're likely going to continue to see this move east. And again, generally speaking, a lot of this is moving at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. So that's why we're seeing a lot of updates from the National Weather Service, because things are changing quickly. Things are unfolding very fast, and these storms are some rapidly developing, others rapidly weakening, which is why we've seen a lot of changes with that tornado warning again back up to the north, if we want to take another look at that. And you can even see severe thunderstorm warnings extending up towards the lakeshore in northern Ohio. So again, this particular tornado warning, within a few minutes, we'll probably see some changes with this. And again, haven't seen anything jumping out here using our radar tools, and it looks like we might be in a situation where they might be kind of switching things out with this severe thunderstorm warning with this particular tornado warning. This is still in effect a tornado warning, but we're kind of seeing things cleaned up here from the National Weather Service, where they're highlighting this area over Delaware that is likely going to maybe replace. If not, we might see this tornado warning extend further out to the east. Again, something we'll keep you in the loop with as soon as we find out. But again, over Delaware County, you want to continue to stay in your safe place. This used to cover Union County with this particular warning that has since then expired for Union County. So again, you're in the clear for Union County, but in Delaware County still, you need to be in your safe place. Again, you want to make sure your devices are charged, you're in your safe shelter with your friends, family, loved ones. Now's not the time to go outside and see what's going on in the weather, and especially whenever it's pitch black. I mean, you're really not going to see a whole lot out there anyways. But again, roaring winds, heavy precipitation. We've had that heavy rain pass through here at the station over the past half hour. And again, a little bit of a big picture here. This particular tornado warning radar indicated that is in effect until 2:15 for us. And again, we have been seeing some heavy precipitation pretty much across the board over central Ohio. And it's looking like we do have another severe thunderstorm warning that was just issued here.
That's for Fairfield, Franklin, Hocking, Pickaway, and Ross, and it's going to continue until 3 a.m.
Okay, yeah. So that was just issued until 3 a.m. And again, that's for Fairfield, Ross County. And you can see this is essentially an extension of that same severe thunderstorm warning that we're talking about that was in through parts of Washington Courthouse, extending the most northern part of it which honestly kind of falling apart right over Franklin County. So good news for those in Madison for the most part, except the portion of southeastern Madison County where you are dealing with that spot of that severe thunderstorm warning, although that'll likely get updated here shortly. You can see that we have quite the amount of severe thunderstorm activity that is going to be moving through parts of southern Franklin County. So it looks like we have seen that update where it's including parts of southern Franklin County. And if we can get a closer look at that, maybe then put another squall line track on that to see where this particular line is heading. But this is going to be likely just around Grove City over towards Groveport area. Let's get a quick track on the line there and see the projected timeline and arrivals for those particular locations. And you can see these are moving very fast. Commercial Point 2:14, so in a couple minutes, less than that. Williamsport at 2:22. Again, Clear Creek looking at 2:38, so a little bit further out on the eastern part of this particular warning, but pretty much within a half an hour of these storms, you're in the severe thunderstorm warning. You're going to be feeling the impacts of these strong storms. And again, most of these have been packing some pretty strong damaging wind gusts. That has been the primary concern from day one when we first started projecting the system to impact central Ohio, and then the low tornado risk, which again, holding rather true for us is what we're looking at for us tonight. And if we want, let's just take a closer look in Franklin County and see exactly what areas are included in this severe thunderstorm warning, and then we could pivot back up north towards Delaware. If we get a little bit closer here, so over towards Grove City area, and again, we are looking at some pretty heavy precipitation that's moving, extending up in the southern parts of Columbus along Frank Road there. Further down to the south, too, we'll take a look over towards Harrisburg area and extending off along 71, so kind of matching, running parallel to that of I-71. But this is quickly going to be exiting Harrisburg, moving towards Commercial Point, as we just tracked for you in just a few minutes. So again, moving in fast, and it'll be in and out before you know it. And again, everybody's dealing with this as we head into tonight, and everyone's going to be dealing with the strong winds tomorrow. May not be as strong as far as the peak winds for what we have in store tomorrow, but definitely going to be looking at some pretty strong winds going to your Saturday. Let's go back up to that tornado warning that we have in Delaware County, because we should be looking at this expire within the next couple minutes. And you can see that's extending from Ostrander, from Radnor into Delaware, northeastern parts over towards Ashley. So we'll likely see a few updates here from the National Weather Service. Wouldn't be surprised if we were to see this expired, but again, we could very well see this possibly leap over into a different county. But for the time being, as you can see, this is pretty much out of the area. Nothing really a screaming message of anything showing any strong rotation, so I wouldn't be surprised if we were to see this tornado warning expire here in just a few moments. But again, looking at some very strong winds nonetheless. A lot of these winds are in excess of 50 to 60 miles an hour, and especially for something moving in and out within just a moment's notice, definitely will be packing a punch. And again, this particular warning, we'll likely see some changes here in a few minutes. So we'll go back to the radar there.
Ross, they've just updated here. The tornado warning for Delaware County now continues until 2:45 a.m.
Okay. And this one is still radar indicated?
Yes, still radar indicated.
Okay.
Directly over Ashley and moving east at 55 miles per hour.
Gotcha. So let's throw back on the radar there and then focus over this update with the warning. So you can see there how they've kind of tweaked some things. So it looks like, and we'll just get this covered in the hole there. So Delaware, let's zoom things out a little bit first just to get us an idea of where we're at. So Delaware, you're in the clear. This is for Delaware County. But for those that are just included into this warning, we'll take a closer look. And that's from Ashley down towards East Liberty, just north of Sunbury, where we have this tornado warning in effect. And again, nothing really here that's showing any strong rotation, but again, National Weather Service is watching us for a very good reason, because we have been seeing some tornadic activity, and especially with what we're dealing with, which happens to be more of just kind of a cluster or a line of storms moving through. Sometimes you get that little notch in that line where you could see a quick gust of wind possibly switch up directions, where we could be looking at some rotation, and while it may be brief, it could cause some serious damage out there. So again, we'll continue to keep an eye on this system as it's moving through. And Madison, I don't know if we've had any updates from the National Weather Service as far as any other severe thunderstorm warnings or any storm reports.
At the moment, no. Most of the storm reports are way off to our west. I did want to note, though, with this line that's moving through, the portion of the storm that's looking the most iffy, that I think the National Weather Service is watching the most closely, is definitely just this one little area right over Ashley. You can kind of see a little bit of a, not necessarily a hook in a traditional hook that we would talk about with severe thunderstorms, but you can see a little bit of a curve in the shape of that line. And that's where we're seeing some intensification of the winds, some quick intensification. So if you're in those areas, spots like Ashley right now, even though this is not directly over you with this radar, you're still going to be seeing those heavy rains and also the really gusty winds associated with this. As we head further south, not seeing quite as much, still going to be having some heavy rain and some strong wind gusts, but definitely that main area of concern is right around the corner of Ashley right now. I can pull these winds back up here and take a closer look at that. We're getting some brighter colors as we head off towards the east. East Liberty seeing those now. Sunbury sort of seeing a little bit of that. That's where we've got the stronger winds associated with it, that line starting to move to the east. But the main area of concern, it's definitely that one little edge of the system that was trying to curve. Looks like even in just the latest few buffers here of our radar, it's starting to look a little straighter, which is good news there. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing over here, Ross. No updates when it comes to severe thunderstorm warnings. I've been watching power outages as well. Right now, things are looking pretty good in and around Columbus. Looks like we're getting a update here, possibly a new severe thunderstorm warning as we speak for this line moving through Mansfield all the way down into Columbus. Mount Gilead seeing that right now. This, of course, the edge is where we have this Union County tornado warning in effect. Looks like they just popped that, or about to pop that on. But that's what I'm seeing here right now, Ross.
Okay, so yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot of updates. A lot of the progression of these storms are moving in that easterly direction. So let's go back and take a big picture here, what we're looking at. And again, as we were talking, most of these storms are going to be moving through the middle of the night from about that 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. time frame. And again, some of the weather alerts that we have been getting, again, have been primarily that associated with severe thunderstorm warnings. And you can see here, getting that update, as you can see, in parts of southeastern Ohio. So this is including Perry County into Fairfield County, parts of Morgan County as well, including Athens County. So this is just a continuation of this line that's moving through, and despite not being in the most favorable conditions, as was the case over towards Indiana, just enough very strong winds in the lower levels of the atmosphere, and you can see, just take a big picture here across most of the state, pretty much dealing with those severe thunderstorm warnings. Again, we have that lone tornado warning, looking pretty quiet for the most part along I-70 there, but again, just to the south and north, nonetheless, you're dealing with some heavy rain, precipitation, and some strong winds with these storms as well. So again, something we'll keep a close eye on with that. But let's take a look again at that tornado warning that we're dealing with. And again, we did have that earlier that was issued for Union and Delaware County. Since then, we've had some updates and some extensions for you. So this is just including portions of Delaware County, just north of Sunbury, east of Delaware, and you can see that we are looking at what doesn't look to be, a strong signature of, a very dangerous situation. But again, we are dealing with this tornado warning, some very strong winds nonetheless. So now's not the time to, ignore this type of warning. You need to be in your safe place again, and especially for this time of day, you want to make sure that you're seeking shelter. You want to make sure that you're, not hanging out in the living room where there's a lot of windows around, because the debris is oftentimes the biggest problem with these tornadoes that end up flying and throwing it all over the place. You definitely want to put as many solid walls in between you and the storms as possible, especially if you're not in a space such as a basement. You want to make sure that you're putting as many walls in between you and the storm as possible. And again, with a lot of these storms that we've been tracking through the course of the day, nothing was severe. This was the moment we were anticipating some of these stronger storms move through. And again, wouldn't be surprised if we were to see another update from the National Weather Service with this particular tornado warning, as again, things look to be kind of quickly moving out. And again, further to the south, we'll take a look over towards areas in central Ohio. And you can see it looks like we essentially have that of two waves that are moving through. The one that had just passed through areas in Ross County down further to the south. You can see that this is gradually pushing to the east. Behind that, we have this line which may run into some trouble and actually weaken due to the fact that we are looking at a lot of moisture, a lot of storms that have already moved through. So this line looks like it is falling apart quite a bit from Hillsborough over towards South Salem area, but up towards Circleville. Let's take a closer look up towards Pickaway County. This looks to be one of the areas where we're dealing with some of the heavier precipitation. We'll just zoom in, so we're just showing that at Pickaway County, and you can see right over Williamsport right now, seeing extremely heavy rain passing through. Asheville, for the moment, things are relatively calm, but these showers and storms will be quickly moving through as we head into the next 5 minutes or so. A little bit further north, if we go up into Franklin County, we can show you where we're looking at some heavier precipitation falling over Groveport area. And again, a little bit closer, we can see up towards Bexley, just outside of some of the heavier precipitation that moved through, but from Lockbourne and the southern parts on 23 pushing east along the 270 loop there up towards 70. You can see all this heavy rain that's moving through, and it's again moving to the east. So we're going to continue to see this move out to the east. Pickerington, you just had some extremely heavy rain move through, strong winds. You have round 2 coming this way, and again, if we can put a little bit of a mini track on this and show this trajectory moving out to the east, while this isn't included in the severe thunderstorm warning, still a part of that same line where we're going to be looking at some pretty strong winds that are going to be moving through. And again, generally speaking, most of these are moving at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. And you can see those arrival times. Etna at 2:25 a.m. Pickerington 2:26, and again, these are all within a matter of a few minutes, and these are moving through very fast. Buckeye Lake 2:37, so these are storming through. You can see Columbus area. We're not looking at any extremely heavy precipitation, but some steady rain moving by, so for the most part, things are looking a-okay, but some strong winds nonetheless pretty much across the board. And again, for this time of the day, you want to make sure you have multiple ways to receive your alerts. We'll take another quick look at that tornado warning. Then after that, we'll walk through the hour by hour and let you know when these storms are going to be wrapping up, as I'm sure many of you that are up right now are probably wondering just how long am I going to be dealing with this. And again, you can see here, this particular tornado warning, probably going to see some updates associated with this. This was radar indicated. It was continued by the National Weather Service until 2:45 a.m. This is including areas just north of Sunbury and to the northern parts of Delaware County and to the northeast, and then just around Ashley. We'll get a closer look in this particular area because just outside of Delaware and over, you can see there's a pretty big difference between tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, and really not showing a whole lot of precipitation here on the end. And there we have it. So it looks like we just had that tornado warning canceled. So right now we don't have any active tornado warnings, but before we send things back to regular programming, let's hop over to our hour-by-hour forecast so that we can show you guys a little bit about what's going to be happening over the next couple hours, because there's going to be a lot of updates coming for us down the road. And again, a lot of these storms that we've been looking at really weren't seeing a whole lot of stuff really move through until around this time frame. So we'll give you a good idea of what we're going to be looking at as we head into the early part of the day. And now that we're in Saturday, we might have had some time changes with this particular hour-by-hour forecast, but again, what we're going to be looking at as we head into tonight, we're still going to be looking at some very heavy rain moving through, heading into the morning hours for us going into this Saturday. And again, things are going to be cooling off rapidly, so we're going to see some pretty big changes come our way. But again, looking at these storms moving through, we have a whole lot of severe thunderstorm activity, so we'll just keep things here for a moment, just because some of these severe thunderstorm warnings have been packing some wind gusts, and that of about, I would say, 60 to 70 miles an hour. And I don't know if we've had any other updates from the National Weather Service or not. Madison?
At this point, no. We're still doing pretty good. Same story for all of our severe thunderstorm warnings. I do want to note, though, we're getting more and more damage reports from just about 20-30 minutes off to the west. So I do think we're going to start to see those damage reports as we head for our area as we head into the next hour, couple of hours. And I do anticipate that we're going to have a few issues with power outages by the time this line moves out, because these winds are still just howling 50 to 60 mile per hour across the area within this line, stretching all the way north to Cleveland and then all the way south of us into southern portions of Ohio. And this is still going to take several more hours, of course, to get out of here.
Yeah, and in Madison, we are looking at quite the amount of area that's covered with these severe thunderstorm warnings. And I'm actually going to hop over here with you because I wanted to take a look and see if we can see anything with this particular hour-by-hour forecast. But again, something that we've been watching. Again, we've been keeping a close eye on these storms as they've been moving through. The biggest thing that you need to know is while we're not looking at any active tornado warnings, we're still in that low risk criteria. So here we are roughly at about 2 a.m. with our hour-by-hour. Wanted to give you this just because for a lot of you might be wondering, okay, the tornado warnings expired. Am I still dealing with severe weather? Well, we still have a ton of severe thunderstorm warnings in effect, but as we head into about the 3 to 4 a.m. time frame, that's where a lot of these storms are going to be moving out. The threat will be completely done with the severe weather, but then soon thereafter, we're going to be dealing with the potential for some very wicked winds that are going to be moving through the area. So again, we are looking at some pretty strong storms that are moving through the area, but as of right now, we do not have any active tornado warnings, and most of the severe thunderstorm warnings that we have been looking at, they have been packing some 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. This particular warning that's including parts of Franklin County, this is the southernmost part of Franklin County there, and Fairfield, Pickaway, and Ross County, that's going to be in effect until 3 a.m. But right now, we have no active tornado warnings in effect for our area. So again, with that, something to keep an eye out for those of you that are just, contemplating heading back to bed. Do so, but make sure you have your devices charged up. And again, very likely we're going to see more of these strong storms push east of the city as we head into the early morning hours for this Saturday. But of course, we'll make sure to keep you up to date as these storms come through, and as the information is available, we'll be the first to relay it back to you as well.